So foreclosure filing volume almost up 100% year over year in November. And we're looking across the board. A lot of locations are getting beaten up with value declines across the country. Welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns. Today is December the 9th. Hope you're doing well. Randy Patrick here, putting the realism back in real estate. Let's get at it right now. Friday, it's time to clear the desk. I know everyone's busy, got holiday stuff on the mind. Let's get at it. Okay, so information comes out every month now. We're seeing an increase in foreclosure activity across the board. Basically, U.S. foreclosure completions increased by 64% in November 2022, which is interesting, which means stuff is actually going to auction and being sold as real estate owned or bank-owned properties. But the real number here is the little fine print that says foreclosure starts increase annually by 98%. But both measures down from October, the previous month. Okay, you're down a little bit from October, but guess what? November does tend to be a slower month because of the Thanksgiving weekend there, so I can attest to that. But the point is, we're now seeing consistent filings now every month that are either over 100% year over year or at 98%. What this basically means is we're getting back onto normal foreclosure activity, foreclosure tracking, foreclosure funds, whatever, with respect to the market. So as the market evolves and gets back to normal, these numbers go up. It's part of everyday issues with respect to the housing market and foreclosures. The highest foreclosure rates, this is kind of a per capita. It's like, X number of 1 unit per thousand, whatever. That's how they measure it. Illinois, Delaware, New Jersey, always the leaders. You got South Carolina, Wyoming up there as well too. As far as the specific locations, you're going to have Cleveland, Columbia, Davenport, Iowa, Bakersfield, Atlantic City, New Jersey. Smaller cities, larger cities, more than a million. You have Cleveland again, Chicago, Riverside, Philadelphia. Okay, so guess what? These are locations, a lot of people, a lot of population. They're going to have a higher rate of foreclosure. Foreclosure completions, again, 64%. These basically are REO. So what happens is the lender forecloses, nobody buys it at the auction, they take it back in their inventory, they sell it out in the open market as what's called an REO, which is real estate owned. Shouldn't come as any surprise that we're starting to see that increase as well too, because foreclosures have been picking up over the past year. The greatest number of foreclosure starts, again, this is the key data that I personally look at. Greatest number of foreclosure starts still are in California, Texas, and foreclosure. Florida. You know what's on my mind here. All right. Basically, down a little bit, down 5% from the previous month of October, up 98% year over year. As I mentioned, November typically has a week, which is a few days off for Thanksgiving, which sometimes people take longer, the whole week off, etc. So we always tend to find that the November foreclosure filing statistics dip a little bit. The same thing will happen in December. That'll dip once January, hits us. It's going to rear its ugly head up again because everybody starts filing in January, kicking off the new year. So we're going to see a massive increase in January. Obviously, the states included California with about 2,244 starts, Texas over 2,100 starts, Florida over 1,700 foreclosure starts, New York 1,500, Illinois over 1,200. So again, this is for the month. This is not surprising. These are the typically most populated states, and they have significantly big cities. So therefore, we're going to see stuff like this happening. The major metros with more than a million people, New York City had over almost 1,600 foreclosure starts. Chicago, quite a bit. Houston, quite a bit. Miami up there. LA up there as well too. So again, the locations that are populated across the country are starting to see their fair share of foreclosure filings going on, which to me, it talks a broader term here. As these foreclosures are picking up, that means people are still having financial difficulties. They're behind on their mortgage. Who knows what reasons why? The economy is doing poorly. We have recessions, high prices, whatever. So all these things are contributing to people not paying their mortgage, plus some of the residual effects of pre-COVID and during the pandemic when we had foreclosure and eviction moratorium going on as well too. So this should not come as any surprise to anybody. Now, the funny thing about it here is that recent home buyers are being hit with massive wave of regret. So the last video I talked about the fact that we have people who actually purchased in 2022 this year, and they're already behind on their mortgage and they're already underwater on their mortgage. So if you're one of those buyers, you may be going, you know what? I am regretting. I should have held on or waited for a change. But again, you can't always tell people to stop doing what they need to do to live. But sometimes if you can put these things off, it doesn't make sense to buy at the peak of the market when everyone's talking about how things are going to change. So essentially, 1 out of 5 Americans have moved since COVID pandemic hit. A survey from the Harris poll, they sampled nearly 2,000 U.S. adults, almost 1,300 homeowners, around 1,600 and change renters. Of those who changed addresses in the last 2.5 years, 44% that they now regret moving to their current home. So for whatever reason, not a good move, didn't pan out as expected, maybe didn't work out financially, who knows, but they regret. So when you have homeowner sentiment being at record lows, now you've got the homeowner regret. I shouldn't have done that, on top of all this too, which is interesting. So basically, if I moved in the past 2.5 years because I wanted what? More space, to find affordable housing, be in an area with lower cost of living, to be in a safer area, closer to my family, to be in a more remote area for health reasons. I wanted warmer weather, tax implications, environmental crises, to move for a job, to be in a more exciting area, to move for political reasons. So essentially, you can see that the top answers of why people moved were for affordable housing, more space, lower cost of living, safety, family, health. So that was kind of your everything over 50%. And then essentially, health was a little bit lower than that, but then warmer, tax, environmental, job, whatever, we're 40s, whatever. But the point is, these are why people are moving. And so that's the survey. But interesting enough, I said 44% regret their move. So I don't know whether they regret the fact that they moved locations or they moved to a house they didn't like, or et cetera. So who knows how that plays out. But the point I'm making, though, is that, again, you've got homeowner regret, should have done that. Homeowner buyer sentiment at lows. We've got a housing correction going on now. We got waves of foreclosures coming in 2023. And folks, by the way, if you like the information I provide on my channel, if you could certainly help it grow and smash that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate that. And if you are a subscriber, could you please reaffirm and actually resubscribe, because I've lost probably about 100 subscribers this week alone for various reasons that I don't know why. Okay, so thanks very much. Okay, moving on here. This came out of fortune.com. Essentially was these 49 housing markets to see home prices fall over 15%. This is Moody's information. Moody's Analytics, as I've always mentioned, lately has been very good at providing some pretty good analysis, heat maps, whatever, about the marketplace, where values declining, appreciation, stuff going on. They've been pretty interesting, pretty good about this. So I do like them as a source of information, and they've been very consistent. They haven't been, I guess you could say, how can I put it? They haven't succumbed to maybe outside pressures and change their narrative here. They're actually one of the few groups that have been consistent, saying that we are going to have housing correction crash and things could get ugly. So basically, here's what we're looking at as far as locations. And again, some of these seem to be smaller towns, but maybe they're suburbs of larger cities. I don't know every location. So you got Morristown, Tennessee, 24% decline predicted. Muskegon, Michigan up there, Pocatello, Idaho, Boise, Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, Flagstaff, Arizona, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, I guess it's on the border of Missouri and Illinois, Crestview, Florida, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Racine, Wisconsin, Lake Havasu, Arizona, I don't know how to say that word, Kahului, I don't know, Hawaii, Nashville, Tennessee, Bend, Oregon, Clarksville, Tennessee, Flint, Michigan, Idaho Falls, Idaho, another place in Oregon, Battle Creek, Michigan, Santa Cruz, Twin Falls, Idaho. A lot of Idaho going on here. So clearly there's a lot, and I know that because I've talked to people up in Idaho. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, whether it's, the cities, people have relocated there. So you can see that those locations had massive appreciation. That's why they're on the top tier, the forefront of what's going to happen. Dalton, Georgia, Naples, Marco Island, Florida, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Ocean City, New Jersey, Charleston, South Carolina. So everything that's over 15%. It's between 16 to 24% from bottom to top there as far as loss of value happening. And again, this is predictions. It could be worse. You got Phoenix, Knoxville, Tennessee, Pueblo, Colorado, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Austin, Texas, Cleveland, Prescott Valley, Arizona, Ogden, Utah, East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Reno, Charleston, West Virginia, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Hilton Head, South Carolina, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, Kingsport, Tennessee, Gary, Indiana, Lansing, East Michigan, so Ann Arbor, Michigan. So a lot of stuff in that sort of, Midwest, sort of, Rust Belt up in that area. That's going on here. Miami, Florida, New Orleans, Longview, Washington, Appleton, Wisconsin, Las Vegas, Nevada. So a lot of these are obvious locations. They've had huge appreciation. This is just a quick little blurb as to what's going on, but you can see that, these are pretty good numbers. These are pretty good declines in value, which will take the edge off for potential home buyers. Now, a lot of people go, well, I'm not going to buy until I see material decreases. Well, anything over 15% to me is kind of material. Clearly, when it gets into like the 20s and 30s, that's big time, and that's where you'd obviously want to buy. But the point is, we're not talking 3 markets across the country, a very we'll call it contained area. It seems to be across the board. Yeah, there's a few states that have a little bit more going on here, like Tennessee, like Idaho, etc., Michigan, etc. But again, if you see, it's pretty broad across the board. You got East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, etc. So, and again, this is what they put out. I'm sure if you go from 15% to 0, that we're going to see the majority of the country below. But the point is, this is what's happening now. This is their predictions. Every couple weeks when they do this, the predictions actually get worse. And so, worse being they think there's going to be worse, more declines than previous month's discussions, etc. So that's the whole with respect to what's happening in the marketplace. And again, all those numbers are, as I said, they're all based on what's happening right now in the marketplace, where things are going. They don't factor in the pre-foreclosure stuff, the foreclosure legacy items, the forbearance delinquencies, whatever that's going to come in waves. They're not even factoring that. That's why I'm saying that's what's actually going to really push us truly over into a crash, whereas now I would call it we're in a correction. All right. Now, interesting enough, this basically is, and again, let's take a step back here. So obviously we talk about, things that are direct real estate, buyers, sellers, foreclosures, home price, exactly, stuff like that. Well, if you've listened to a lot of my videos, we talk about how real estate is a big factor. I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied today, I got lots to say, is a big factor of the GDP, gross domestic product, okay? So real estate is about 25% of the overall GDP. Now, it's not just buying and selling of houses, because again, take a look at all the ancillary services that happen when you purchase a house or work in real estate. For example, the CEO, this is Restoration Hardware. Basically, so I guess they're known as RH now, not Restoration Hardware, because I'm thinking going, who is RH? And of course, I'm looking at the sites going, oh, it's Restoration Hardware. If you've ever been to a Restoration Hardware store, it's a pretty cool store. They got neat stuff. They got they're into design and rehabbing, like they got all sorts of stuff. So they got a lot of great things there. Clearly, but this is interesting because this is not buying a house. This is not selling a house. This is not mortgage services, title services, realtors, whatever. This is a retail store, but because Restoration Hardware is all based on home furnishings and home improvement and things like that, when this housing market takes a nosedive the other way, it's groups like this that feel it. So the CEO is saying he's never been known to hold back his blunt views on business, and his latest matter-of-fact commentary directly involves the U.S. housing market. So it's just a lot of uncertainty right now. But one thing I'm certain of, the housing market is collapsing at a level I haven't seen since 2008. I haven't seen this kind of drop since 2008. So that's why when you hear CEOs of companies that again, they're not Wall Street, like, financial houses like Moody's and Fitch and Goldman Sachs, whatever. This is a guy, he runs a company that supplies, services and products and et cetera for the housing industry, albeit a little different. But you can see how when the market tanks, these groups are affected. And so he's concerned. And for him to say, I haven't seen at a level of this since the last housing crash, all right, haven't seen this kind of drop since the last housing crash, that should have us open our eyes and say, yet another person who's looking at it from his perspective on his company, saying, yeah, it's, I see this happening in the marketplace, it's going to affect us, etc. So of course, what does that mean? Well, if you're a publicly traded company, your stock's going to take a little bite here too. Basically, the impact of the housing slowdown wasn't hard to spot in Restoration Hardware's third quarter results, so they're already feeling it. Sales tanked 13% from a year ago. Net profits were cut in half. Inventories have risen from the start of the year. And sales of the Restoration Hardware's pricey home furnishings have plunged. And again, if you go to one of their stores, very nice store, very nice stuff. They've got all these little boutique setups and designers and carved marble from Italy and fabric from here and there. Like it's a high end thing, and they got some flagship stores, one in particular in the San Francisco market. But the point is that when you have markets that are tanking, it's interesting to see that the residual effect is not just on direct real estate. I call it more indirect. So basically, what they're saying here. So of course, the Wall Street guys are saying, well, Now we're concerned about where the profit potential is going to be for them, but also the entire home furnishing sector. So yes, not just them, but it's going to expand to other home furnishing companies as well too. Because nobody, again, when people move, like what do? You buy a house, you furnish the house, you get services. Like you think about all the things, I've talked about this before, when you actually buy a house, what goes on besides the real estate agents, mortgages, inspecting, appraisals, closing with title companies, title insurance, okay, moving expenses, putting on and off utilities. You've got home furnishings, landscaping. Oh, I got to buy a lawnmower. I got to paint. I got to do this. So, buying and selling a house expands to a large segment of the population as far as providing services and products and things like that. It's just part of what you do. You paint, you rehab, you buy furniture, you buy kitchen things, you put art on the walls, like you do all sorts of stuff. That's money, which is spent in the economy, which helps our economy. And now, the home and the entire home furnishings market is going to take a beating here too. And again, the point is, okay, guess what? They're going to talk about that as, they're going to have to give an outlook financially as to what's going to happen. That's going to, adjust price points and for stock, etc. But my point is, this affects more than just the direct real estate things of buying and selling. Now, I talked about foreclosures today. So if you want more information and you want to find out how many foreclosures and where they are in your backyard, your neck of the woods, go to gethousingdata.com. That's gethousingdata.com. It's my affiliate link with foreclosure.com. They're the number one provider of distressed property listings in the U.S. You can take a look at the foreclosures, shadow inventory, the pre-foreclosures, which we want to key in on, sheriff sales, bankruptcies, tax liens, short sales, fixer-uppers, all that type of stuff is in there. It gives you a great, quick snapshot to basically validate and verify what I'm talking about right here. It's happening across the country. It's not one location, not my location. It's happening in every major location across the country, every tier 2, every tier 3 city as well too. So things are changing, folks. Get with it, get with the times. That's what's happening. So by the way, since it's Friday, we're not going to keep this too long here. So if you want more information about how to work with me or what I provide, services, etc., we are doing a lot of things right now, and it's going to get busier and busier. So I suggest if you're interested, connect with me as soon as possible, because my capacity is getting pretty much filled up for what's going to be going on next year. We got a lot of cool things we're doing, and it's going to be a lot of involvement in the things I talk about right here. So once again, folks, have a great weekend. Thank you for the views, likes, comments. Please share the video with your family and friends. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And we'll look forward to speaking with you next week. Take care.